Hello and welcome to Hump Hangouts, episode 570 on the 29th of October 2025. I'm here with Bradley. Adam is still running somewhere in the woods, as usual, and was actually quite sunny the day today in Austria. Hit the gym, couple PRs as usual. Yeah, how are you doing today?
Good. Busy as hell, like way busy, but it's good stuff. I'm excited about what we're working on and everything. So it's good. Been a busy day though.
Perfect.
Entire week's been like that actually.
Yeah, that's always good.
Yep.
Also, if you're new to this channel, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button to our channel so you get notified by all the updates. And let's jump straight into announcements. What do we have today?
Just local mastery newsletter. Just
All
talk
right.
about that. So, okay, I guess I'll do that.
Yeah, please.
Local Mastery newsletter. That's our newsletter. It's very inexpensive. It's $29 a month or $250 for a year. It's basically the webinars that I do every Thursday. So I host a different webinar I host a webinar in the mastermind every Thursday. Every 2 weeks, it's a mastermind webinar, which is like an hour and a half to 2 hours of me kind of doing training, covering stuff that people ask me to cover in the group or stuff that I want to teach about, things that are pressing, that is, like current events type stuff that are affecting our industry, that kind of stuff. And then the other Thursdays, we have an hour-long discussion, which is called the Build with Bradley meeting. It's a Zoom meeting, so people can join and unmute themselves, show their camera if they choose to, and we have a discussion and we talk. Sometimes I'll use it for training, but for the most of the time, it's a discussion, and we cover various topics and things like that. And that's always a lot of fun. I really like those. But once those are done, what the newsletter is for is we summarize everything. It's a very detailed process because we really it's not just an AI summary. Like it is an AI summary, but then they're manually edited, and I review every one of them. I read every word of every newsletter every week, and make adjustments to it and things like that. So they're very actionable. It's for people that are either they're in too many damn groups already, which I can understand, or that don't have the time or the desire to sit through webinars and that sort of thing, which I also understand because I don't really have the time to do that much either. And so I really wish a lot of these other groups and things that I want to belong to would do this as well, which is to create these summarized versions of the webinars, because then I would find a lot more value from that, since I don't have the time to sit and watch or participate in those long webinars. I would rather just get the summaries of them. And so that's what this is for. It allows you to take what, could between an hour to 2 hours of video content and consume it in 15 or 20 minutes via text. And it's just the actionable items, like the Reader's Digest version, so to speak. That's dating myself. I know some of you younger folks have no idea what the hell Reader's Digest is, but it's essentially just a kind of an efficient way to get the training and the action items from the different webinars. So I'd encourage you to check it out. They're very detailed, and I think they're a great resource. Very inexpensive. So
Definitely. We all love them.
yeah.
Cool. If there are no other announcemaents, I think we can go straight to the questions.
Yeah, we can. Give me 1 second. I'm going to put the link in chat.
Oh,
Uh,
oh.
localmastery.semanticmastery.com. Believe that's it. Adam's usually
I,
the
I can drop it as well. Like,
Adam's the link slinger. He's the one that slings links during the meetings usually. So I put it in chat. All right. Yeah, we got a handful of questions, some good ones. So I guess we can jump right into that. Let's close this down and get
sweet.
started. You guys will see I'm using the Edge browser now because Microsoft Copilot has the Actions, the AI browser functionality. So it's called Copilot Actions, I think. But essentially, it's like ChatGPT's Atlas browser or Perplexity's Comet browser. It's really cool. It integrates with Copilot, which I didn't ever think I would use Microsoft Edge as a browser, but it's pretty damn good. And I'm not kidding. It's pretty good, man.
Yeah,
And
it's
it's
just the same backend as Chrome.
yeah, and I mean, well, it is GPT, and I mean, what I'm saying, the browser is Chromium, yes, but then it's connected with ChatGPT. So, anyways, it's really good though, and so I've been using Edge since last Friday. Last Friday is when and by the way, I was looking at different AI browsers to determine if I was going to start testing with one of them, and so I looked at Perplexity, I looked at Comet, or Perplexity's Comet, excuse me. I looked at Atlas. I looked at a desktop version. So it's called Strawberry Browser. There's another one called Browser OS, I think it is. Those are both where you set up an MCP server and you kind of host them locally, but it still ends up acting like, so it's a little bit more secure with your data and that kind of stuff. And so I looked at a number of them, but I ultimately went with this one because I already use Microsoft 365 Premium, Microsoft 365 Suite or whatever for two of my white label agencies. And it was only $100 more per year to then activate the premium, which ends up giving you the AI browser in Edge. So, Copilot and Edge browser. And so it's very, very inexpensive. And I said, well, let me try with that one first. And I'll play around with that to see if it's something that I'm going to pursue. And I really like it, man. It's got a lot of really cool features. And, as I spend more time in it, I'll figure out how to use it more and more for to improve productivity and stuff. But so far I like it. I like it a lot. So I switched to Edge browser and I've been using Edge since last Friday. So 4 or 5 days now. And there's definitely some quirks to it. But so far I like it. So anyway.
Got you.
Let's see. FYI, VideoMax says I did not get a notification. Y'all went live. And then when I went to my subscriptions, it didn't show you guys at all. Just letting you know. Okay. Well, thanks, VideoMax. Appreciate that. All right, guys, let me grab the screen. We'll get into it. We've got a handful of questions. We don't have anything else we need to discuss right now, do we?
No.
Okay. Stand by. We got a handful of good questions, so let's get right into it. All right. YouTube comment, first question. Usually these are tough to answer, but I'll try. So let's give it a shot first. If not, we'll move on. And what's up, Alex? I see Alex is in here as well. So the first question is why your homepage schema, well, it's from a video titled why your homepage schema shouldn't have Amazon S3 ID page schema. Why your homepage schema shouldn't have Amazon S3 ID page schema. I think that's not a really good title. That needs to be retitled. Anyway, I follow your thinking, but are you saying a website with separate landing pages for 8 cities in a county should have a separate GBP? Yes, that is exactly what I'm saying. If you want, all right, let's back up. You're talking about landing pages. When I talk about a location landing page, whoever this comment was from, I mean the website URL that is linked to from the Google Business Profile. I call that the location landing page, right? It's because it is the landing page that is connected to the Google Business Profile. So when someone clicks the website link, it takes them to the landing page, what I call the location landing page, okay? You can have supporting locations. So I call that a location landing page, or an LLP for short. A supporting location page, or SLP, is any other page where you are optimizing to get, search exposure for that particular city or town. But it doesn't mean that you have a physical location there. It doesn't have to mean so in other words, the way that you can distinguish between the two, there are supporting location pages, which are pages on the site to help support local search performance, but they don't have to have Google like physical locations. A location landing page is the page that is dedicated to the Google business location. Or if there's a number of locations, if it's a multi-location business, then each Google business location should have its own dedicated location landing page. But even if it's a single location business, if you've got, it's a service area business where they are serving multiple cities and towns from the one physical location, then you would have a location landing page that the GBP links to, optimized for the same city that the GBP is physically registered or verified in. But then you would have supporting location pages for example, adjacent cities and towns, right? Any of the cities or towns within the desired service area. Okay, does that make sense? The GBP would link to the location landing page, the page optimized for the same city that the GBP is physically located in. And then you would have an ID page reference. Well, the way I would do it is you have one ID page per physical location. That is a branded that's a local business ID page. You can have an overall brand ID page, which is location neutral or independent. In other words, an ID, remember the ad ID field is in multiple schema types, but the way that I use it specifically it's for influencing and helping to develop the knowledge graph for the brand. right? There's overall brand knowledge graph, which is who the business is and what they do, or the products or services that they provide. But it's basically location neutral, because remember, a business can have one location or multiple locations. So there's kind of two levels of brand schema. There's overall brand schema that is location neutral, and then there's branded location schema for each physical location. And so each branded location knowledge graph is a subset of the overall branded knowledge graph. Do you understand? So you can have an ID page for the organization schema or any of the appropriate subtypes, medical organization, corporation, whatever. Okay, you can have an ID page for that, a dedicated ID page for that, but I would recommend that you would omit any location references in it and just talk about who the business is and what they do. So for example, name, address, or name, company name, primary social media accounts for same as attributes in organization schema. You can talk about knows about the entities for the products or services that they provide. But I wouldn't have area served, and I wouldn't do same as attributes for individual citations, business directory listings for a particular location, right? That's why I said primary social media accounts that are universal to all locations. They're branded social media accounts. Those can be referenced as same as in the organization schema. But local business schema should have same as attributes referencing external page URLs that have accurate information published about that business location. You understand? But then that's where I would also put area served attributes in the local business schema. That's where the ID page for local business goes. And that's typically where we use the ID page, is at the local business schema level, right? Which is where we are optimizing for who the business is, what they do, and where they do it, right? That's that location component. So you would have same as attributes in the ID page of the local business schema, or in the ID page period, you're going to reference all of the external page URLs that you would also list as same as attributes in the local business schema. Hopefully that makes sense. In other words, the ID page is essentially like a container or a repository for all of these external assets, the same ones that you would reference in the same as attributes of the local business schema. We just create an ID page to create one dedicated resource where we reference all of those URLs and NAP information and the social media and all of that. You understand? It becomes a dedicated resource specific to that particular branded business location that tells the search engines and the language models, the bots, the crawlers, that is where they can go to find validating or corroborating information about that particular branded business location. I talk about this all the time in audits as well as on sales calls with other SEOs and SEO agencies when I'm doing my semantic links sales presentation. And that is, you got to think about a knowledge graph, guys, similar to like a jigsaw puzzle. Like if you were to go buy a jigsaw puzzle at Walmart or whatever, you could see on the box, the image of the box, right? The cover, what the puzzle is when you put it together. But when you go home and you dump that shit out on the table, what is it? It's a mess of all these pieces that you then have to take your time and spend time sifting and sorting through them and organizing them to find which pieces fit together. And as you start fitting pieces together, the more pieces you fit together in the proper order and connected properly, then the image starts to emerge, right? The image of what that puzzle, when it put together, starts to emerge from that mess of data points or puzzle pieces, excuse me, right? And the more pieces that you've organized properly and fit together, the sharper or clearer that image becomes. Ultimately, you get enough pieces in there and you know exactly what it was supposed to be. Well, that's an analogy I like to use when you talk about how the knowledge graph is developed. Google has a vague understanding of who the business is, what they do, and where they do it because of the Google business profile. When you validate or verify the Google business profile, that is the starting point. That is telling Google, this is who we are, this is what we do, and this is where we do it. That's why you assign a name, categories, location, or service areas. Do you understand who we are, what we do, where we do it? And so But then Google is up. It's up to Google and now language models too, right? The other algorithms that are we're surrounded by algorithms, right? Then they go out and start crawling the web to look for literally needles in a massive haystack, right? Through trillions of web URLs to try to find validating data points that corroborate that name, address, phone number, and website information, thereby supporting what the algorithms understand about who the business is, what they do, and where they do it, because they found supporting evidence that corroborates it online, right? So in other words, the more data points that it cannot recognize as being associated with that brand, that branded business location, the more data points it can find and pull into the knowledge graph, the better the understanding of who the business is, what they do, and where they do it. Essentially building more branded location authority, which, in my opinion, is the most important thing in local SEO right now. Second most important thing is site efficiency, right? So that's why I talk about this all the time, because if you build proper branded location authority, you can have deficiencies in the other SEO areas and still perform very well. We had a long discussion about this last week in the Build mastermind webinar, excuse me, with Semantic Mastery, because we were talking about I audited a campaign that had no business ranking according to all SEO metrics. One of our mastermind members asked me to review this on last week's mastermind webinar because he said, I can't understand why this business is ranking. Can you review it and perhaps figure out, provide some insight? And I reviewed it. And it's one of those types of campaigns where we can see that, like, really, there is no reason for it to be ranking, but there's a couple of things that can cause that. Two things that I see a lot right now that are ranking, that are, it's like an unfair advantage in performance in local search. One of them I think is complete bullshit, and I can't believe, well, I haven't seen it as much in the last couple of weeks, but over previous to the last couple of weeks, so maybe that's been found and corrected by now, but exact match domains. EMDs in local search have been absolutely crushing it. For the last couple of 2 or 3 months or a few months, whatever it is, time is such a blur to me anymore. But it was for the last few months, EMDs have just been absolutely crushing it. Like ranking among, like even in competitive markets or industries or areas, whatever, we see EMDs outranking, with terrible SEO metrics, but just because their EMD is their ranking. Again, the last couple of weeks, I haven't seen that as often, but for a few months, I was seeing them almost every competitive analysis or full SEO audit that I did. If there was an EMD in the top ranked 5, the metrics were usually pretty poor and they were still ranking well. Okay. So that may be I always expected that wouldn't last very long. EMDs historically, I've been doing SEO for 15 years and, historically they've come in and out, right, of favor with Google. In other words, sometimes they perform well and then Google, changes the algorithm and they don't perform well for a while. And then something changes and then they perform well again. And so I expected that to be a temporary performance gain from EMDs. It may be that that's already been resolved because I haven't seen that as much in the last couple of weeks. However, the second thing is branded search and click signals from real consumers, not CTR manipulation. Real consumers. So what do I mean by branded search and click signals from real consumers? Well, if you're doing offline marketing and advertising in your local area, or you're doing it for a client, for example, billboards, yard signs, radio ads, cable TV ads, direct mail, canvassing neighborhoods and hanging like door knockers, right? Or flyers in the mailbox, or you're not supposed to put them in the mailbox, but in the paper box or whatever. Doing print ads in the local, thrifty nickels and newspapers and things like that. All of those types of things, having lettered trucks driving around, right? Where people just go to Google and search for the company name and then click through. Direct mail does that. I know for a fact in my own businesses, I've done a number of businesses over the years, over my career, where I've used direct mail as a lead generation tool. And I know for 100% certain, if you are doing a direct mail campaign, you will see a lift in digital or local search performance. Hands down, there's no question whatsoever. I've seen it time and again. If you are doing a direct mail campaign for your own business or for clients, they will see a performance gain in local search because people will receive the letter or the postcard or whatever it is. And even if you have the phone number and the page that you want them to visit on the the mail piece, a lot of, I don't know about most, but a lot of the consumers that receive the direct mail piece will just go to Google and search for the company name instead of going direct to the website URL or calling the phone number. They'll go to Google and they'll search for the company name and then they'll click through. Those signals are absolutely fantastic because they're real Google user signals. They're not spam CTR signals through proxies with browsers that have no relevant history whatsoever with what they're engaging with in their search and click signals. These are real consumers in the area that Google has a massive profile built around, about who they are, what they're interested in, where they visit, where they live, all of that. And so when you are doing local offline marketing, it almost every single time that I've done offline marketing for clients or for my own business, I've seen a significant performance improvement in local search. Now, obviously, when you stop doing that sort of whatever offline advertising or marketing that you're doing, then that can wane, which is why it's important to then have the other SEO metrics, all the other foundational elements done properly. Because if you are relying purely on signals such as branded search and click signals from consumers, when those and none of the other kind of foundational or SEO components are done well, then when that traffic subsides, so will the exposure in search. Do you understand? But if you have the proper foundation, then it's much more likely that that will stick or at least not decline as fast, as quickly, right? And by the way, what I recommend is that you don't just do like the on page and then do off-page marketing and stuff to get those kind of CTR, those real valid branded search and click signals from real consumers, and not do anything else. I always recommend that you do that, but then also trickle in some consistent link building, press releases, review generation, right? All the things that we do to help keep the engagement levels up so that even when potentially branded search and click signals wane, right, you still have the other signals coming in. Remember, SEO is a collection of signals, right? It's not just one thing or another. It's a recipe, a mix of all these different signals. And it's difficult to overcompensate in other areas where you have deficiencies in an area or areas. CTR, branded search and click signals from real consumers, and probably manipulation, but I don't trust CTR manipulation anymore. And this is from somebody, Semantic Mastery, even had CTR services over the years that we've developed and stuff. And I just don't recommend doing it right now because a lot of that shit is, Google's gotten really, really good at determining what's a validated traffic signal and what's not. And so what I'm saying is, the signal generation that we create is a number of across a bunch of different kind of categories or domains, so to speak. And I don't mean website domains, but like different types of signals: social signals, engagement signals, link signals, on-page signals. There's a number of different things that we can do. But the only thing that I've seen that really works consistently when you have deficiencies in all the other areas, but can still show massive performance gains, is branded search and click signals from real consumers, if that makes sense. So that's why I'm saying, like, if you are doing that and that is what is producing the result for a client or whatever, then it's in your best interest and the client's best interest to make sure that the other elements of the SEO campaign are also being optimized. On-page, off-page links, reviews, all of that kind of stuff is critically important because eventually those branded search and click signals could subside if the offline marketing and advertising budget runs out or the campaign ends or whatever. And if you are doing a nice mix of the other signals, then it's likely that you can maintain the ranking gains that you achieved during the branded search and click campaign or the offline marketing campaign, which resulted in branded search and clicks, if that's clear. So anyway, I just bring that up because, guys, I'm telling you, our job as SEOs, Google's gotten a lot better, and more recently, especially, at weighting signals differently based upon those signals that are easy to manipulate are weighted significantly less than the signals that are much more difficult to manipulate, like real branded search and click signals. Right? That's why I'm saying they work phenomenally well compared to CTR manipulation signals, right? Because again, Google, those signals are weighted much, much heavier because they're coming from real consumers that Google knows are validated, people, if that's clear. So, like I said, guys, I think there's a lot of one of the things that I've been working on a lot is a lot of AI stuff lately. And, look, I'm sure everybody has, but looking on trying to determine, how to optimize for both searches, Google and, traditional search, but then also AI search and everything else and AI chat. And I was on a meeting, mini mastermind meeting with Jeremy from Press Advantage and Ian Ovens from Agency Assassin yesterday, actually. And we were having a call for about an hour and we were talking about this stuff. And one thing that I see a lot of right now is like the EEAT, like, eat. We've talked about eat for years in SEO, but for a long time, that was really just a Google quality rater uh, guideline. Like, in other words, the EEAT manual was basically for quality raters, like people, humans that worked for Google that would rate and that would qualify websites and rate them and determine if they were spam sites and all that, all that kind of stuff. And EEAT was a guideline for them to determine, is this content, authoritative and trustworthy and all that kind of stuff, expertise, authority and trustworthiness and all of that, right? And so that's what they would do as a manual review. Well, now from my own kind of experience in testing, I see that is really kind of baked into the algorithm now. And so that's why it's becoming a lot more important to associate content with an actual author, a real author, not generic persona, unless you can make the generic persona profile appear to be very real. And that's, by the way, this is also how Google is starting to combat things like AI generated articles and stuff, because it's so easy to produce content and publish it, right? And just proliferate with content on the web because of all this, technology that we have. So how does Google determine which content it's going to promote and what it's going to ignore or demote, right? And that is, okay, the author, right? Who is the or the brand? Who is the content tied to? And is it, so are there those trust signals? There's that word again, right? Signals, the trust signals. So one of the ways that we can do that, and I'm seeing this a lot, is LinkedIn. Build your LinkedIn profile up, or your client's LinkedIn profile, or an author profile if you're using like an author or whatever. Build it up, make sure it's right, and reference and link to the LinkedIn profile, because that is a really strong kind of a signal to Google that it's a real person and this is their domain expertise, right? Like, again, if it's a business owner, that for a client, for example, one of your clients, and it's a business owner, have them make sure that them or somebody, on their staff or whatever has a really well-developed LinkedIn profile that shows that they're a subject matter expert in whatever industry they're in. And then assign them as the author of the content. I don't care if it's you and your agency producing the content, just clear it with the company to make sure that you can say that they're the author, right? And then make them the author, so that now you've got that EEAT signal from the trustworthiness and authority of that person, that profile, that you've associated with that content. And so I'm seeing this kind of stuff, guys. Like, for example, in my own business, I'm getting ready for our Canopy Call Lead Rescue launch, which is our AI appointment setting service for tree service contractors. And it does route planning for estimates and all this other stuff. And so we're starting to prepare for that launch. And so I've got my blogger now who's doing social media posting for me. Just started on Monday of this week, so 3 days ago. Last week she was in training, and this week she started posting. Right now we're just doing X and LinkedIn. In a week or two, she will also be posting on YouTube, both shorts and longer form videos. And she's doing all of the content in my voice, because I joined an AI program that has, I just uploaded dozens of hours of audio and video content and tens of thousands of words of written content. And now she just accesses that app and she produces content in my voice, my tone, my style. And I've trained a Hey Jen avatar. Well, it's not done yet, but I started training a Hey Jen avatar so that she can also create videos as me without me ever having to do anything with the videos. I provide her with the questions that the questions and answers that tree care contractors often have for, how do I grow my tree business? What's the best way to generate leads for my tree care company? How can I integrate AI into my business operations? Like, these are questions that we answer in social media and now in YouTube videos, or will be in a couple of weeks with YouTube videos. we already got an automated podcast, an AI podcast with my voice, because we trained 11 Labs Pro with my voice. And so we're already doing that via podcast, and I'm seeing the results from that. And so because of that, I said, okay, as we're preparing to launch this new service for my Tree Care HQ agency, I wanted to build up the social media presence, because again, this is going back to what I just talked about with the EEAT. So she started this week. She's doing a very aggressive posting on LinkedIn and X, both on my own personal profile and the Tree Care HQ profile. And so I'm doing a lot of posting and stuff so that I can build that authority up and that buzz up, so that when we launch it, we'll have a bigger audience, and it will also just perform better in search, and also likely AI search too, if that makes sense. And it's probably 6 weeks before I'm ready to launch that service, but we're starting now so that we can build that presence up. And I'm seeing that kind of stuff, guys. Like, that's why I think it's critically important. Look, as an agency, it's going to be difficult for you to have anybody on your staff can create that kind of EEAT component if you are producing content for various industries, because you're not really a subject matter expert if you're just producing content for multiple. So that's why I think it's important to talk to your clients to find out whether it's the owner, the founder, or somebody else on their staff that that you could, assign as the author for any of the content that you produce for their marketing. Because now you can associate that content with an actual, subject matter expert that's real, valid. It's not some fake persona. And there's so the history of that, and that person being real, where Google knows it, that's going to make that content so much more valuable, right? And perform way better than if it's just some generic thing, right? And so that's something we're doing a lot of right now with my clients, like my tree care contractor clients. A lot of tree guys aren't really all that active on LinkedIn, but I'm getting several of my tree care contractor clients, and I just provide them with all I'll do is I'll take their company and their LinkedIn profile and go to Grok. I use Grok more than anything for my AI, chat. So I go to Grok, Super Grok, and I just add in their profile and their company, and I say I need a LinkedIn profile optimized for this, this individual, and for tree services, and this is their company, blah blah blah. And I just get all that stuff and send it over to them and say, here, go optimize your profile this way, because we're going to start associating all of the content and everything back to your profile so that it performs better. So that's easy stuff that you guys can do. But I hope that makes sense, guys. The EAT stuff, like before, it was always like I used to tell people, like, don't fucking worry about that. It's not algorithmic. That's for manual raters, like people that actually work for Google that review the sites. But I don't have any definitive proof of this other than just my experience in analyzing results all the time in audits and competitive analyses, and seeing that content that is associated with an authoritative profile performs significantly better, hands down. And so that's where I believe the EEAT has been kind of integrated into the algorithm. Again, I don't know that that's true, but that's my kind of assumption based upon what I've been seeing. So hopefully that's clear. Anyway, we're going to move on. Alex says, because it's in the website embedded in the ID page. Yes, the schema is. You're right, Alex. That is, so what Alex is referencing is you do not need to add schema to the ID page if you already have local business schema on the money site page, the location landing page I recommend embedding the location landing page, into the ID page. And if the location landing page already has local business schema inserted into that page, then that will pull through the iframe of the ID page. You don't need to have schema in the ID page if you have an embedded location landing page with the local business schema. You will see that local business schema when you view the ID page in the schema validator. Now, if you're not embedding your local landing page or location landing page, in the ID page, then you could add schema to the ID page. Okay. All right. Anyway, that was question went off the rails a little bit. At least my answer did, but I think it was important because it's really important for people to understand that. I think right now that's kind of the cheat code, is if you can produce more authoritative and real valid signals, then you can actually have deficiencies in some of the other areas and still perform really well. So branded search and click signals, EEAT type signals, all the kind of the harder it is to manipulate, the more weighted those signals are. You understand? The easier it is to manipulate, the less weighted those signals are. And that's Google's way of combating spammers, SEOs, right? The cat and mouse game that we've been playing since Google came to be. So Allah, I'm not sure how to say that. Forgive me. Is it still worthwhile adding separate location page URL for each city? Yes. Or can the locations served be stated on one page? No. Well, it depends on what you're doing, but it depends on how granular you're talking about. And also, there's a number of variables to be clear. Allah or Ayla or whatever your name is. Sorry, forgive me. I'm terrible with names unless I hear them pronounced. Horrible at it. Anyway, there's a number of variables to determine that. So I can't give you a definitive answer, but typically, more often than not, you want one location page for every city or town or substantial location. Not necessarily like, so for example, you can have a city page and then there can be neighborhoods or communities within that city. And those can be supporting location pages that support that top level city page or town or whatever it is, if that makes sense. But a lot of the times that's unnecessary in local SEO. Now, in super competitive markets, then yes, it's likely going to be necessary to create all the way down to like neighborhood or community level pages. But in many local SEO campaigns, that's overkill, right? It's not necessary. And I still see a lot of SEOs that will go out and still create these great big elaborate sites with all these pages because they think that that's going to help them to perform better. And a lot of the times, remember, guys, I talk about this, I've been talking about this for 2 years. And I said already, the two most important things in local search. I already said the first one earlier, the first question, branded location authority. Number 2 is site efficiency. So, and again, site efficiency, the helpful content update specifically addresses site efficiency. Okay. And so having a site with a bunch of city or town pages and then supporting neighborhood pages is overkill because it lowers the site efficiency. Look, sometimes it's necessary because of the competition levels, but for the most part, it's not. And what I see is, in most situations, it's not. And what I see is the more efficient a site, the less pages on the site, the better it performs. The more focused the site is around topic and geography as it relates to local, the more narrowly you focus a site around the topics, so the products or services, and or the locations or the areas in which they provide their products or services. The narrower you can focus the site on those things, the better it tends to perform. The broader you make the categories or the topics of the site and the broader the geographic targeting, the less it performs. So going back to this, again, same thing, as I would recommend that you start with the bare minimum and see how it performs. And you can always go in and again, I see SEOs all the time that they go to launch a site for a dry cleaner in a local community, right? And you don't need silo structure and supporting neighborhood pages and all this stuff for a damn dry cleaner, right? You know what I mean? Like I'm exaggerating here a bit, but what I'm saying is that's not, sometimes I've seen where an SEO will reach out and say, hey, I've got this project I'm about to launch for a client. Can you take a look at my proposed site structure? And it's this elaborate fucking site with dozens and dozens of pages. And it's for something like a single service category business that serves just a fairly narrow area. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing, dude? This is way overkill. You're creating way more work than you need to, overcomplicating it. And I used to do that too. I think it was necessary years ago because of the way that the algorithm worked, but it doesn't work like that anymore, right? Again, site efficiency is critically important. So if you can reduce the number of pages, that tends to perform better. Some cases it's required though in order to achieve the result. So what I recommend is that you target for every city or town or census designated place, unincorporated communities, whatever. Typically areas that have a zip code, at least one zip code. Those are usually the areas that you want to, like, as granular as you want to get. Okay. And then you would reference neighborhoods or communities that are contained within that zip code area or that city or the town, whatever it is, on the page. So you'd have an H2 that says, we service the following communities or neighborhoods in city. And then you would have an H3 table, like a table of just H3s, right? So columns and rows that list and reference as H3s, each of the neighborhoods within that area. Now you've got a direct reference in an H3, a subheading, for each of the neighborhoods or communities within that city. That's usually all you need to be able to rank that page, right? Really well, because you've got all these geographic relevance mentions within the page, right? However, in very competitive industries or areas, whatever, then you might need to have location pages, at which point you'd still have that same H2, you'd still have the same H3s, but those would be clickable H3s that would link down to the supporting pages. And then on each supporting page, you would have a link back up to that top level city or page. But again, that would be overkill. I don't recommend doing that until and unless you've determined it's necessary, because otherwise you can, again, think about that. Let's say there was 12 neighborhoods in a particular city. You could start with one city page, or you could start with 13 pages. What would you rather do? Right. And by the way, if you have 13 pages, because you have the top level city and then 12 supporting location pages nested underneath that city page, now you've got 13 link building targets instead of one. You see what I'm saying? So you make the site less efficient. You make your link building budget less efficient. You make the effects of links less efficient, because you dilute the link equity internally more because it's spread across more internal pages. You understand? So I always recommend starting with the simplest, most basic site structure possible. See how it performs first. Then you go in and add pages as it is needed based upon how it is performing. If that makes sense. Because the smaller the site, the more focused, the better it performs. And you also can stretch your link building budget further that way too. Hopefully that's clear. Have you tried Search Atlas? No. Do I have any thoughts on it? I do not. But I have been using Copilot. That's what you can see it right here. Here's Copilot chat right here. But if I just go, like, I don't even have Google as my primary. Let's just look for tree service, Pikeville. I just moved here in June. See, I'm on Bing right now. I have to actually go to Google. I could set Google as my search engine, and I got that set as home right there. If I click home, it goes to Google. But like Bing, like, it's really cool because it will ask, like, sometimes it will suggest follow-up. Like, this is a local search, but if you do like an informational search, it'll come down here and it'll show you suggested, like, dig deeper type questions and stuff. It's really, really cool, man. And I can also ask it to do things like I can ask, and if I go directly over to Copilot, or I can open up Copilot on my desktop, either way, it doesn't matter. I can go and I can ask it to do things for me, and it can do things. Like, I can ask it to book a hotel room for me or something like that. And it'll go out and research, and it'll send me a message and say, hey, these are what I found. And then I can say, okay, go book one there. And it'll actually go through all the booking process up until the payment. And then it'll tell you to, like, take over so that you can make the payment and check out and all that kind of stuff. And so this does very similar to like Atlas or Perplexity's Comet browser. Like I said, there's a number of them now that are coming out. Google's going to come out with one. I queried Gemini about it a couple of days ago, and Google says, and by the way, that was here. I'll just show that, because I was showing this last week, AI browser for, I just started this on Friday last week, so I posted about it. But anyways, this is what I'm talking about. The right here. I queried Gemini about this the other day. While Google has, because I asked Google if it was going to come out with an AI browser as well, right? It says while Google has, this was Gemini's response, while Google has the underlying technology and is integrating AI more deeply into the browser, a direct consumer-ready equivalent to Copilot Actions, which is that AI browser I just showed you, for automating tasks on any website, is not yet a standard feature of the Google ecosystem. However, the capabilities of Gemini and Chrome are continually expanding, and the power of Gemini 2.5 computer use models suggests more advanced features are on the horizon. So it'll be interesting to see if Google and when they come out with their own kind of version of it, how it responds. But for right now, like I said, I never thought in a million years I'd be using Edge browser, but it's actually really cool. So anyway, all right, moving on. A couple more questions. What are the most essential SEO tools, add-on services that you use when building with GHL and when building with WordPress? Well, right now, I don't recommend building with GHL. I know I'd said for about a year and a half, maybe even 2 years, that was my preferred method, but something changed again sometime around May of this year. And Google doesn't like high-level sites again, which is unfortunate, because I switched almost every fucking site that I've managed over to high level. No kidding, man. I've only got a handful of WordPress sites left. And the high level sites don't affect maps ranking, but they do affect organic ranking. And that was not the case for a while. I thought they were fixed permanently, but something changed in Google's algorithm a couple of months ago again, and Google doesn't like them sites anymore. So I'm having a hell of a time with high level sites and organic search. Maps, it doesn't affect it at all. But in organic, I've seen almost every one of my high level sites drop, and it wasn't from anything else other than just the code. So I don't recommend using GHL for websites. Not that you're trying to rank. If you're just using the website as landing pages, you're driving, paid traffic to it or traffic from email and social media campaigns and stuff like that, then it's fine. But if you're looking to rank sites in organic search, I don't recommend using GHL sites right now. Okay. Yeah, you can still rank them, but it's like fighting with one arm tied behind your back because the code is just so bloated. And I've always known that, but for whatever reason, it seemed acceptable to Google for almost 2 years, which is why I completely switched over. And now I don't recommend it. So what I recommend instead is you build sites with things like bolt.new or what is it, Replit or something like that. There's a number. I use Bolt, but there's so many different webs. There was another one I just saw the other day. I think it was called shit. I think it was Mango or can't remember it now, but it was another one that I just saw the other day that looked really good. Mango app, maybe. No, that's not it. I can't remember it off the top of my head. If I remember, I'll post it in the chat. But there's another one that I looked at that looked really, really good. I'm using bolt.new for that, but those produce sites in HTML and they're so much faster. They're so much lighter, and they just perform significantly better. So that's what I recommend. I don't recommend WordPress. Fuck WordPress, guys. I hate WordPress. I honestly hate WordPress. It's ridiculous. Every time I log into WordPress, you got 15 updates. Like, it's just stupid. I hate WordPress. I really do. I don't even know how to optimize or edit in the new WordPress dashboard. Like they changed the functionality and I don't even know how to do it. I got a podcast site and a marketing blog for Tree Care HQ right now that both have design elements that haven't even they're still like Lorem Ipsum text and stuff because I have no idea how to edit those sites. I've asked my web design team but I haven't followed up with them. But I told them, I was like, look, I don't even know how to go in and edit these sites anymore. I honestly don't. And I don't even have any desire to. So I'm not going to recommend anything for WordPress because I just don't use it anymore other than for my directory site. And I still have a few client sites that are on WordPress, but I don't manage their sites unless I built them. So, so I just don't mess with WordPress at all anymore, unless it's my own some of my sites that are still on WordPress. Okay. Hopefully that's clear. GHL, don't recommend it. Use something like bolt.new. Guys, there's so many apps out there now that you can go to and create lightweight sites that are in HTML by just chatting with the AI. Tell it what you want. Tell it what you need. Tell it how to interlink pages. Like, hey, I want these pages interlinked with these pages. It's not hard, right? Once you have that, by the way, you can build a site builder in those. I've been working on that, but got so many other things going on. It's kind of went on the back burner for a minute, but just check it out. Those vibe coders, you can build websites in as well. And they're significantly lighter, so they perform better. All right. What is determining criteria in whether to build the customer's website in GHO or WordPress? Well, before it was just my preference. That was it. But now, like I said, I wouldn't do it in either. I'm going to build new sites in Bolt. At least for now. I might try another app too, but right now I'm using Bolt. Is this something I'll get right? Is this something I'll get right before it's too late? I'm like, Lord, help me. I don't know what that means. I don't know that's not really a question. Jay says, does your new localops SEO course include AEO, answer engine optimization? No, it doesn't. But that's what this is for, and that's what the mastermind is for. The localops course is about how to get just local SEO results. The same process that I use for everything. What I talk about as far as, we still do blogging. I talk about this in mastermind all the time. We still do blogging for clients. That's just go look. If you go look at you don't, I guess, Jay, you don't have it, but the localops SEO system, I show exactly what we do for clients every single time. Every client gets the exact same things within, plus or minus a couple of days, the exact same time frame. The only thing that changes is the volume or the quantity of signals. That's it. They always get the same things in the same order at the same time. The only thing that changes is the quantity. And so that process there, like for example, blogging, I just started mentioning that we still do blogging for all clients. That is a deliverable. So it's an activity that we get paid for every month, right? But we don't blog on the main money site anymore. We do it on the external blogs, branded blogs. So Google site, Blogger, WordPress, Tumblr, Medium, Weebly, any of those, doesn't matter. Just pick a few of them, but do your blogging there, right? And so that's kind of one of the ways you can optimize for AI search and AI chat. But press releases, and so yeah, I do cover that. Press releases are part of the localops SEO system because it's standard operating procedure. I do press releases for every single client, and I have been for over 10 years. Every month, every client as my own local SEO clients. I have white label clients where they don't purchase the press release add-on, so we'll do a press release every 2 to 5 months, depending on their. I'm trying to do them more frequently now, so like every 2 to 4 months, depending on their subscription level. But for all my local SEO clients, which are tree care contractors, we do press releases every month. And in fact, a couple of my clients right now, I've actually suspended all other link building, and I'm just doing, because I'd already built their link profile up with proper relevant links. And so instead of us continually building additional links, we're actually shifted a lot of budget away from traditional links to press releases, because press releases are one of the ways that you can get into AI search very, very quickly. Preferably with premium. They're not cheap though. That's why, like I said, I've actually shifted the budget away from several of my tree care contractor clients from regular link building to more press releases, because we already had their backlink profile proper and relevant. And now we're trying to get more into AI search and recommended by AI search engines and AI chat, etc. Hopefully that's clear. And press releases are great for that. And there is a whole section dedicated to press releases in the local ops. Hopefully that's clear. All right. What is the best source to keep up with best practices for the latest evolution of SEO? Guys, go check out Julian Goldie. He's got some good stuff. He's got a specific school community that is for AI for SEOs that they want to integrate AI into their SEO process. Julian Goldie's got, I think, 3 school communities. He might have more, but I know of 3 of them. One's a free community. One is a community about creating a business around AI tools and development and things like that. And then, so it's just more general AI stuff. And then there's another one that's specifically like AI and SEO. I actually didn't join the AI and SEO one, but I am a member of his AI one because I've been doing just so much work in that lately. So I joined that group. Julian Goldie's got some good stuff. He really does. A lot of his videos, which I'm sure you guys know if you know who I'm talking about, he produces so many fucking videos on YouTube. It's ridiculous. Well, that's his AI avatar. It's not him. It's his AI avatar. So I'm actually kind of following his lead a little bit in that. That's why I started training a Hey Jen avatar for myself so that I don't have to do any of that shit anymore. I've got a blogger full time. She's been working for me for like 12 years, no kidding. And so she's taken over my social media, and she's fully managing my social media as me, if that makes sense. So I would go check out Julian Goldie. In fact, let's just pull that up real quick. Just take a look at it. School, Julian Goldie. And you'll see some of his. I'm in Bing. I'm so not used to being in Bing. That's so weird. The SEO Elite Circle, that's the one. AI Money Lab, I don't know if that's the free one or the one that I'm in. Let me see which one I'm in. I'm not logged in here. That's why. That's all right. I'm not going to log in now. But there's one that's free. Then he has a paid, 2 different paid ones that I know of. The SEO Elite Circle was the SEO community. And then there's another one that's just AI related. AI Profit Boardroom, and that's the one that I'm in right there. That's the paid one that I'm in. So anyway, check it out. All right, couple more questions, guys. We're almost done. Alex, this might be the same Alex that's in chat. I'm doing a proposal for a real estate client who already has one of those fancy property search websites. They're not so fancy, by the way. They're really not. Those sites are terrible, to be honest with you. But their on page is crap as expected. Yep. Would you recommend just telling their web person what needs to be updated, new content, or you recommend just rebuilding it from scratch on another platform? Well, if you want better SEO performance, you build it on another platform. But the convenience and ease of using those other pre-built sites, I understand it. And that's what the vast majority of those in that industry do. Again, if you can, convince the client into paying for a new and custom site build, that will perform better than those generic kind of, out of the box sites that like Lead Carrot, I'm sure, or Investor Carrot or whatever it is. I used to be in real estate, so I know a lot of those different types of site builders, and they all suck. They're all templated sites and everything else. You're very limited into how you can optimize those. So even if you provide them on-page optimization instructions, a lot of that stuff they're not going to be able to do anyway. And just like I talked about, go high level sites or high level sites, excuse me. The code is not usually all that clean on those sites, and so it's just difficult to optimize them. You can do it. There's a number of those sites out there that are performing well, but if the client's okay with it and they're willing to pay for a site build, I'd recommend building the site. It'll make it easier for you to manage if you built it for them, and it will likely perform better too. Okay. Yeah, if you can. If not, then I would, just do the best that you can. By the way, that's what I teach about in the mastermind. That's why we do the Google Sites for local SEO. That's one of the reasons why that I actually developed that process, is because in the real estate business, a lot of the times you don't have control over the site. It's limited in what you can do to optimize it. So if you mirror the site structure into a Google site, then you can correct a lot of the on-page and structural issues that you're unable to on the main site. You can do that in the G site. And the G site acts as a container, a wraparound that just wraps around the main site, right? So you can actually correct some structural issues and things like that via the Google site, and then use the Google site as your primary link building target. Because the investor sites need to be embeddable for that to work the way that I recommend. And some of those have iframe breakers on them, but the ones that allow iframing, that will work really well, is using the Google site as a site mirror that you create a 1-to-1 page ratio where you then can correct internal linking and structural issues via the Google site. And then the Google site becomes the primary link building target. That's clear. That's something that I cover in the mastermind. Google Sites for Local SEO, SOP, it's covered in there. So if it's the Alex that I think it is, then you should have access to that. Next question. Hey, Bradley, if I take on one client, I'm not going to be working on their self-hosted website, but I will do all the off-page stuff like ID page, citations, PR, blogs, etc. How would you handle if they ask, why are you using a different phone number than ours? Why would you be using a different phone number? Brett, if I take on a client where I'm not going to be working on their self-hosted site, but I will do all of the off-page stuff, why are you using a different phone number than ours? Well, why would you be using a different phone number? I don't understand that. Alex, if you're on, I sure would like to know why, like, where does that come from? That seems like it's out of place, that question. It just, unless you're talking about all the assets that you build, you want to use a different phone number. For tracking, but why wouldn't you just put the tracking phone number on their website too? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me, right? They can still keep their primary number. And remember, guys, if in the Google Business Profile, you have a primary number, you can add additional phone numbers. Only one, the primary number is going to be displayed publicly, but you can associate any additional phone numbers with the location via the additional phone number option in the Google Business Profile. So if you're going to use a tracking number, why wouldn't you be consistent with the tracking number everywhere? Remember, if you're doing the off-page work, which is going to ultimately benefit their website too, why would you want to have two different sets of phone numbers out there, right? Why wouldn't you just put the tracking phone number on so that you could, prove to them that your marketing is working, not just from when somebody calls from an external asset, but also when they call on the website, right? So you can tie results back to you. Yeah, I understand that, but I mean, like, honestly, I would be consistent with the number everywhere. And they could still have their normal phone number. So any of their existing customers that are calling back would be accredited to them only, not to your work, because they had the original phone number, right? Or whatever. But what I'm saying is any off-page work that you do should provide a lift in their digital presence for their website and their Google Business Profile too, right? So aren't you also responsible for the increase in leads that they receive from their website and their Google Business Profile? Yeah. So I would be consistent with that phone number everywhere so that all leads are tracked through that one number. Forgive me if that doesn't make sense to you, but I just don't understand why you would want to have two separate numbers. It doesn't make any sense to me. That would cause problems more than it would help in any way, shape, or form. So I want to tie the call back to me. Yeah. I mean, build your own assets then, and then rent your own assets out. That's clear. You know what I mean? That's one way you could do it. But if you're working on a client's branded pro properties, you should be, consistent with the contact information everywhere that you publish. Full stop, in my opinion. Okay. If it's you doing all the off-page work, I don't understand why they like, I mean, where else would they be getting leads from? Right? I mean, an existing customer base, fine, but outside of that, how else are they getting leads? Right? Digital marketing and things like now, if they're going to do, direct mail and offline marketing and they want to use their own phone number, that's fine. And if you're not managing that, that's fine. But their digital presence should be consistent. Okay. All right. I'm not going to answer that. Well, actually, I'm sorry. I thought that was a YouTube comment. We're over time, so I'm going to roll through these last two guys and then we're going to wrap up. Is this the secret to geo? What the secret to geo? I'm an old member and you guys have been teaching exactly what everyone is now doing: branded syndication networks, content and schema. Anything else that I'm missing? Building authority to your author profiles or profile. That's important. Again, real branded search and click signals, critically important, which you can accomplish via offline marketing and advertising. I'm starting to incorporate direct mail into my tree contractors businesses now, like for real. I just talked about this last week, and my first client, I found a company that they specialize in direct mail for tree contractors. And I contacted them, got on a call with them and told them, hey, I run a tree care marketing agency. I don't do direct mail, but I know it's effective. I want to start working with you guys and referring my contractor clients to you. And we got it done. And I got my first client signed up just this week. He just signed up on Monday, actually. So we're going to start doing a lot of more direct mail stuff for tree service contractors because it fucking works, right? It works really well. So anyway, last one. Historically, press releases had a high churn rate. I don't know what that means. How can you rely on that for link building? I don't use press releases for links, guys. Press releases are not for link building. It's for brand authority, for pushing brand authority, right? If you're using press releases for links, you're using them wrong because it's the same set of referring domains every time, guys. There's diminishing value from that. Press releases are not about links. It's about pushing authority. Do you understand? Citations, you can use press releases for citations, a published mention of name, address, phone number, and website, or some combination of those data points. Those will be treated as citations, but not for links. Don't use press releases for links, okay? Seriously, that's not what they're for. Because remember, guys, you get hundreds of links with the same anchor text. And every time you publish a press release to a particular distribution network, it's the same set of referring domains. There is diminishing value to that. Don't do it. I got a number of SEO white label clients that they submit their campaigns, and you go look at in Majestic root domain pages, and you can see their top level service and their top level location pages. And you'll look at the referring domain column, and it'll be like 89 referring domains for every single page on the site. And then you go look at the backlink profile, and it's the exact same keyword anchor for all 89 links, or it's more than 89 links, but it's from 89 referring domains on every page. So it's way over optimized anchor text from the same set of source domains, referring domains for every single page. Do you think that's valuable? It's not. Don't do that. Use press releases strategically for pushing brand authority, not for links. Okay. You can push traffic with press releases, but typically not. It's typically something that we use to push brand authority, and also for citations, as I mentioned before, which can help to improve maps performance. Okay. Most press release links just have a very short lifetime and short relevance curve on Google. That's right. That's why you do them consistently. That's the press releases. There's a freshness factor. That's why they're press releases. So you should be doing press releases consistently. I recommend, and Jeremy from Press Advantage recommends, a minimum of 2 per month. If the client has the budget, 4 per month. That's hard to do for a lot of local businesses because press releases aren't cheap. So for my tree service contractor clients, almost every client's on 1 PR per month. Now, I just talked about this earlier on today's call. On some of my tree contractor clients recently, that they've been, with me for a number of months. So we've already built up their normal link building kind of profile, their link profile, excuse me. So we switched away from link building to doing 2 press releases per month for a lot of my local clients because The press releases are expensive, but we're using press releases not for links. We're using press releases to get in AI chat, AI search, et cetera, and to push brand authority and more citations. That's what it's for, not for links. Okay. And so if you publish one a month or one or two a month, you don't ever run out. You don't ever have to worry about the purge issue. That's what you're talking about. A lot of press releases purge 90 days. Some of them are 30 days, some are 60, some are 90. Jeremy at Press Advantage worked out an arrangement with most of the distribution or the publications, the distribution points, to where his don't purge, or it's on an extended period before they purge, like 6 months or something like that. But the majority of them, from what I'm aware of, do not purge. But remember, it's not the links that you're after. It's the authority. Hopefully that's clear. Okay. All right, guys, I got to wrap up. We're way over. Chris, I'm sorry, man. You didn't have to stick around. You could have gone at any time, man.
All good. This week is easier with the time change. As soon as you change the time again in the US, like
Next week,
yeah,
Saturday
more
or
difficult
Sunday.
for me.
Yeah, Saturday or Sunday, we fall back an hour. So, all right. Appreciate you guys. We have a Build with Bradley meeting tomorrow, the discussion group. So anybody that's in the mastermind, we'll see you there, hopefully. Thanks, everybody, for being here.